Hello, everyone. So actually, I should have wet my beauty blender. I'll be right back. Oh my god, my room is such a mess. Don't judge me. Oh my god. So as you guys see, I straightened my hair, which has been a fucking doozy. You know what's so funny about me and straight hair? It's like I always think to myself, like, yeah, like let's do the thing. And then when I have the thing, I'm like, do I like this? I don't really know how I feel about this. And then I just end up looking at myself and like my curly hair and being like, yeah, I missed the fuck out of that. But you know, I'm still figuring out what exactly I'm going to be doing with my hair. I don't really know. I was going to just braid my hair. Like this time, I mean, I thought that like by this time of the week, I would be 100% braiding my hair back up. But, you know, I did a hair mask. I wanted to give my hair some time. And I figured, you know, it would just be a good idea for me to like keep my hair out and like figure out shit to do with my hair. So here we are. So anyway, I wanted to, I'm doing makeup because I'm trying to meet someone. I don't have like a hard time. I told them like an hour, 30 minutes ago. So naturally I thought like, let's, you know, do a broadcast because I'm going to get there a little, you know, obviously I'll make, obviously that'll make it a lot faster as if I do a broadcast, you know? So I got a comment. I'm going to read it to you guys and respond accordingly. I read it really briefly and I'm glad that it was left because it gave me a thing to talk about and think about for a quick second before I decided to do a broadcast. And it's actually something I've been wanting to discuss, like sort of this idea that I'm polyamorous because I'm a trans woman and no one in their right mind will ever give me the degree of commitment that I want, right? I'm going to start out this conversation by saying that I do think people out, let me put it this way. I'm not even just going to say cis heads because it's not just cis heads, it's cis homos as well. A lot of people who are not transgender, they will always have their own personal opinions about what trans life is and what trans dating is and who dates trans people. And as you guys know, I've been online for a very long time. A lot of my early YouTube videos were about dating. I think one of the first videos I made on my the channel I'm using now on Trans DIYer was like 10 tips to dating a trans woman, and it was so fucking cringe-worthy. But anyway, you know, and so I've been doing dating content and talking about dating for a while. And one thing I've realized, because obviously making videos about trans dating, the vast majority of people who are going to be watching these videos are not going to be trans people. They're going to be cis people. You just learn that, you know, people are going to have their opinions about who dates you and how you date and what your dating situation is. And to be honest with you guys, I'm gonna say this. First of all, I'm hella privileged. Let me just start out with that. I am a trans woman who is read as cis. I don't go through life with people knowing that I'm transgender. I make YouTube videos about, so there are people who are familiar with my work, but I'm often in spaces for a really long time before people hear or find out that I'm trans, right? Because for me, being transgender is just not that much of a big deal, you know. So I don't really talk about it as much as people, I guess, imagine I would. And so I'm very, 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 very privileged, and I'm super aware of that because a lot of trans people do not have the ability to be in spaces like that and not be judged because they're transgender. And my privilege has definitely made it so that dating in so many ways is a lot easier for me. I talked about this on a thread on Twitter recently because I was talking about, men being ashamed of being with trans women. And, listen, I go on, I've told, and I'm not telling you guys about these dates so you could be impressed or anything. Like, who gives a fuck about what y'all think, to be honest? But I go on a lot of dates, and I go on dates with men who are more than happy and more than comfortable to be seen with me. And so I haven't had that experience in a very long time of a man being afraid to be seen with me. That's just not really my experience. And I know that that's not my experience because of how I look. And I'm not saying, oh, I look so great and I'm so this and this and that. I just know that I have a very different experience as a trans person than a lot of people. Now, that all being said, people who are not transgender are really not going to understand the nuances and the layers of dating as a trans person. They're just not, right? Because to people who are not transgender, trans people are undesirable. Who the fuck would ever choose to be with them? Who would date them? Who would, fall in love with them? They're just this disgusting, thing. They're a fetish. They're all these different things, And so they have a hard time having a conception of trans people being able to date and be happy and healthy. And one of the things that I've kind of come to realize with this conversation, and to be honest with you, a lot of other general trans conversations, is that cis people will never get it. They will never get it. Cis people's opinions about transgender life are always going to feel to them as valid more than anything. Cis people tend to, and I'm just, look, you can come at me for generalizing, I don't give a fuck. Cis people will always believe that you are the crazy person sitting around who doesn't have a realistic view of life, and they're the sane one, right? They're the sane one who knows things that you obviously can't see since you're so unwell. And they will always do this thing where they really do genuinely, unironically believe that they can define your experience. For me, there's no place where that's more obvious than when they talk about dating. When cis people try to talk to me about dating as a trans person, and they try to talk about the men who date trans women. They try to talk about, who dates us and how they date us. And it just doesn't reflect my life at all. It's hard for me not to get that for cis people, they will just never know. They'll never know. Because my experience, like, I've gone through a lot of abuse. I've gone through a lot of manipulation. I've gone through a lot of bullshit with men. But so much of that coincided with me not really liking myself a lot. And some of that was trans stuff, and some of that was just general insecurity, But as I have become more of a well-rounded person, as I've actually started to fucking like myself, I've noticed that the quality of dates I go on are better, and the men that I date are better. And I'm no longer dealing with, these men who are ashamed of me because I'm not giving my time to men who are ashamed of me. Right. And for a lot of people, I mean, that's really just the key. I think a lot of people don't really get to that point where they're like, oh, fuck, I should not settle for coming over at 12 o'clock to suck his dick. I should just not do that, And so because they don't really get to that realization, They just end up being trapped in that circle of being with men who don't claim them because they settle for that. And I know some people don't want to fucking hear that. There are some people who are stuck in their perpetual victim thing, and that's fine or whatever, you know. But one thing that I've realized about me in dating is that I have, you know, poly, I will say, there are plenty of times where I think to myself, okay, maybe it's because I'm trans. Maybe. And I've dated two men who have never been with trans women for a while, and that aggravated my insecurities. So that's true. And ultimately for those men, you know, well, one of them, you know, we broke up for a couple of reasons. We broke up because he, A, is questioning his gender, and B, just doesn't have the emotional energy for more than one person. And the other guy, it was just like he, regardless of how much of a fucking liberal he's trying to be, you know, he just isn't into trans women. He's attracted to me. He likes me. He would have been with me if everything, you know, lined up for him, but it didn't. And that aggravated my insecurities, right? But as a trans woman who dates in this way, I know and am hyper aware of a large amount of men who already like trans women. And I live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of them. And to be honest with you guys, when I travel, there's still a lot of them. But if you're not a person who is aware of these things, you're really going to think like, oh, the men that these trans girls date, they're so infrequent, they're not around, they're not present, they're not anywhere. But for me, they're fucking everywhere, you know? And but the thing is, because we don't live in a society where men feel comfortable openly discussing that they love trans women, men who like them, right? Because a lot of guys, like, they don't have conversations with their friends where they're like, oh yeah, I like trans women, you know? That never really comes up. Because a lot of these men, I mean, regardless of the way that you like, I mean, look, regardless of the way you feel about it, this is another thing, like, because every time we talk about this, it's always about what's the sexuality of a man who likes a trans woman. Now, most cis people, period, most cis hets and most cis homos are going to sit around and just, until they're blue in the face, say, men who like trans women are gay. Men who like trans women are gay. Men who like trans women are gay. And to me, that sounds just like the whole you can't change your chromosomes thing, you know, where, to be honest with you, both statements just show how fucking stupid you are. And also, further than that, how little you understand about these lives. And so for me, I'm not particular, like, I don't really give a fuck about what people outside of this conversation feel about the conversation, because they're never going to know. I can't help but listen to people say that, and I can't help but not conclude that trans people have evolved beyond their understanding and we're outside of the reach. Like, and I know that sounds really condescending and shitty, but it's like, I feel like trans people have evolved beyond the understanding of cis people, because the way that they talk about trans people, when you talk about gender being located in the chromosome, and when you talk about men who exclusively sleep with trans women and cis women as gay or not straight or whatever, you're just not really working within what I've come to understand as reality. Now, that all being said, I'm not invested in anyone scientifically validating transness. I'm just really not. Who gives a fuck, really? And also, I'm not really into men who need to constantly reinforce their heterosexuality. That's just not personally what I'm into these days. Just really not something I want. And so I'm not really trying to either win or lose these conversations. What's always been interesting to me, you guys have to remember, I've been blogging since I was 14 about trans stuff. I'm 27. The world has changed. These conversations have changed. The arguments have it. More people know about trans life. More people are aware that trans people exist, but the arguments against them have remained largely the same. Now we live in a society where people are a little bit more aware. I mean, part of me being younger and my goal of life in life being stealth was that people don't understand trans people so much that it's a lot easier at a certain point in time, it was a lot easier to transition, you know, and get surgery and get your bottom surgery done and then just disappear and date and like never tell anyone. It was easier to do that because you didn't have to, there was not this awareness of trans people where people had to like explain that, right? It was more like, this is the way to survive and this is the easiest way I'm gonna be able to have the life and relationship that I want. And you know, that's that. But for me, as I've kind of gone full circle with a lot of the whole self stuff and the whole transition stuff, like I consider my transition to be have finished for years. You know, I'm not in transition as some people like to say. I've transitioned. And so for me, part of me, I'm just tired of the conversation. I'm just tired of the conversation. But as I've gotten further and further away from the conversation has become more socially relevant. So it's almost exhausting at a certain point to explain yourself to cisheads who don't date trans people and don't know the intricacies of trans life. So I skimmed this comment. I didn't read the whole thing because I thought I was going to read it on live. But so much of it is like a lot of it sounds very much like, listen, honey, I know you've never thought of this before, but let me tell you the truth. Because I know you have this cute little opinion or whatever, and I think that's really nice, but let me tell you the truth. And the truth is you're a dirty tranny and no one wants you. You know, and that's kind of what it sounds like. It's said in a very polite way, but it's like, see, what kills me, this is what kills me about the cis people really do feel, and I almost don't blame them for this. Cis people really do feel like when they tell you a harsh truth about trans life, that you've never thought of it, that it is a new concept to you. You've never had that thought or experience. Like they really think that you as a person who sits in this and lives in this every single day just hasn't considered this or that argument or this or that thought. And to me, that is like that level, like it's, you know what it sounds like? And I've made this analogy before. It's like you ever hear like a little kid saying something that sounds very intelligent and you're like impressed that they know words and that they have their own sort of way of thinking about things and that they're articulate at a young age. But you know that but because they're young and their understanding is so shallow, you know, it only goes so deep, you know, it only goes so deep. So you're going to pat that kid on the head and say, it's really cool that you understand those things, but you're not going to put them in charge of anything that's going to, you know, impact other people's lives, right? But as a trans person, you live in this society where you've got a lot of these people who are kids in my mind who don't know anything about being trans, what trans life is about, and who trans people are because they would rather tell you than listen to your experiences, who are in charge. So as a trans person, it's a little aggravating because you're just surrounded by these people who are convinced that they get it when they don't. You know, when not only do they not get it, but they're unqualified. And in most situations, in most spaces, you would never you would never pass off the torch to someone who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. But when you're a trans person, you almost exclusively have to deal with people who don't know what they're talking about, but have a lot of strong opinions. And, you know, and that's why a lot of trans conversations for me are just so annoying and I'm not interested, you know, because cis people will listen to you tell your life story and then we'll take a deep breath, pat you on the head and say, well, that was really cute, sweetheart. And it's just, you know, because they think they know. And that's just, I don't know. It's funny to me at a certain point. And I know that when I talk like this, cis people tend to get in their fucking feelings and they get like, oh my god, like I'm cis and I'm intersectional and like cool and like, you know, like I read Redefining Realness and like so like I know what it's like and what it's all about. And it's like, you know what, you can read a million books, but you'll never fucking know. And when you proceed to try to tell a trans person something you believe is realistic that they just haven't thought about, you know, you should maybe stop before you do that. Just only because you don't fucking know. Now, I'm not someone like, so for sure, there are times in my life when it comes to dating where I think, oh, it's because I'm trans. But I'm also smart enough to know that a lot of the reasons why I've had relationship issues, especially recently, have really not been related to me being a trans person. I know a lot of it is me getting out of a 5-year relationship, having a lot of you know, shit I have to work through, and just really not being really ready to maybe have this sort of relationship that a lot of people assume I should, you know? Like, I know that I have a lot of shit that I'm still working through, you know? Like, I mean, one big thing I'll say is that I still have not gotten to the point where I'm calling my friends instead of going out on dates. That's a personal thing that's really unrelated to me being transgender. But, you know, for cis people, they think, you know, when you go through shit, when your life is rough, when you have things that suck in your life, of course it's related to you being trans. There were so many times where I was talking to people about my relationship, you know, when I was still with him and I was having issues. And cis people, you talk to a cis person about your problems in a relationship, and they swear it's because you're trans. They swear it's because you're trans. It could be literally anything else, you know? It could literally, but they'll be like, well, so do you think that he feels that way because you're trans and maybe he doesn't really like you? Maybe that's what it is. And it's like, no, bitch. We have issues that are unrelated to that, right? But cis people will just, it's always got to be because you're trans. And if there's one thing I've learned in life as a trans person, you know, it's so funny to me. People always like to criticize, because I talk about social issues a lot. They like to think that I live in some sort of like victim's complex, right? And I'm not going to say that there wasn't like a time in my life where I did, because there was. But to be honest, like between you and I, because we're having a conversation here, between you and I, okay, I go through life believing no one owes me anything and that a lot of what happens in my life is completely and utterly controlled by me. You know, I don't sit around and think, oh, I'm so hopeless and this and this and that. Like, look, I've gone on dates and been totally like just talking about myself and you know, talking about my relationship and my ex and stuff, and then men have like told me like, look, I think you're cool, I think you're pretty and da 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 da, but like I don't want to date someone who just got out of a 5-year relationship, right? But to a cis person, oh yeah, no, it's because she's trans, you know. Anyway, let me do my eyeliner real quick. Because you know what it is? Here's what it is. See, for me personally, because I'm so used to people not knowing that I'm transgender, it becomes hard for me to go through life and blame anything on that. It just becomes hard, you know? Like I can't genuinely say, oh yeah, well, they treated me that way because I'm trans, because people generally don't know. And so I can't even really have that excuse because it just doesn't land. It doesn't make fucking sense. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, I can't like, so when I was younger, right? and stuff didn't go the way I wanted it to, I really did sit there and say, okay, this has to be because I'm trans, right? And then as I grew up and as I started becoming more red as cis every day, that excuse didn't make fucking sense. I mean, there have been times where I was like talking to someone about an experience that I had, and I mentioned, oh, blah, 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 because I'm trans. And they're like, you're trans? You know? And like, so it's like, that's an excuse that for me, I haven't really been able to sit with, you know, and say, yeah, that's why. Because more often than not, it's really not related to that, you know? It's often something else. Maybe I'm just obnoxious, you know? Maybe I have problems that are not me being trans. And I think that sometimes when you're a minority, it does become really easy to blame stuff on that. But, you know, anyway, let me do my other eye. But for me, that just has not really made sense. And you know what? So I'll give you a good example dating wise about like a time where I realized this. So there was a time in my life, there was a phase of my life where I went on a lot of dates with men who did not know that I was transgender. Now, we can debate the ethics of that, and I'll probably agree with you because looking back, that wasn't right, you know? But so much of me being stealth was like wanting to know what life is like if I were just treated as a cis person, to be honest. Like a lot of it was like, oh, life would be so much easier if I were cis. Men would treat me so much better, you know? And I learned going on these dates with men who, because I thought, so as a trans person, you're so used to being sexualized. You're so accustomed to people exclusively seeing you as a vehicle for sexual use, right? And so you just are so used to men never really seeing you outside of that context, you know? When you settle for it, because I stopped settling for it, and so that's not how I'm really seen anymore. But anyway, um, and so when I go on these dates with these men, initially I was like, oh, I'm being treated so much better because he doesn't know, and this and this and that, and I'll tell him and things will go great, da 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 da. But I learned that, like, dude, men are assholes regardless, like regardless of the situation, men are assholes. Men will try to fuck you on the first date if you let them. If you let them, not all men, obviously. There's not every man in the world is just fiending for, a place to put his dick but the vast majority of men, you give them the opportunity, they will fuck you on the first date. Because I guess when I was younger and self dating, I was like, oh, these men are gonna like take me on like a good date, and they're gonna, make sure that we don't do anything sexual because they respect me, and I wanted to be respected so badly, and I didn't want men to, treat me the way that they were and things like that, because I dealt with so much like abuse and shit when I was younger and dealing with men. And so I thought it will be easier. Like men will just treat me better, and they didn't. And they didn't, And so that was like a realization for me of like, oh, maybe it's not me. Maybe it's that men are overwhelmingly trash. Not all, hashtag not all, but most. You know what I mean? So I had to kind of have that experience to know. Because had I not had that experience, I would not have known. I would have just sat here thinking, oh, I'm being mistreated for all the wrong reasons and this and that, when the truth was, you know, men just sometimes don't treat women correctly. And that's them. You know, so much of my life early on was like thinking that I was being treated a certain way because of how I was, right? And maybe to some degree that was true. I definitely settled for a lot of shit. But, you know, the truth of the matter was that men were just that way, you know? And honestly, when I started blogging a lot about dating and stuff, a lot of my followers were, and I guess still are, cis women, and they're like, fuck, I identify the fuck with all of this shit. And it doesn't have to do with you being trans. This is just how a lot of men are, you know? So I'm not going to say that there are not unique issues that I've experienced as a trans person in dating, because that's very true. But to act like that's like the big reason, or that all of my, you know, dating mishaps are related to that, is just, it's not real. That's just not real. I need to wipe off my glasses. I'll be right back. I'll go get some wipies and then I'll wipe off my glasses and we'll read this comment. We'll read this comment. All right. I look so cute, no? Yeah? Yeah? All right, let me read this comment. Actually, I'm gonna wipe off my glasses first. I have like these, so these glasses get so dirty so fucking fast, you know? They get so dirty so fucking fast. I think because they're just so big. I don't know, but like, I was talking. There's this asshole at the bar that I always go to. He's funny. But we were having a conversation. And he was like staring. He was like really close to my face. And we were having a conversation about something just so random. And he was like, how can, like, just yelled it at my face. Like, how can you stand to have your glasses that dirty? I was like, don't attack my glasses like that. But these glasses, I don't know what it is. They just attract like every dirt and grease and makeup and just it's tragic. Oh my God. I don't know if that helped on this side. Oh my God. Ah. Okay, that's a little better. It's a little better. Just hope. Okay, let's read this comment. And I already know I'm gonna be so exacerbated reading this comment. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, here we go. All right. So she says, this might be the wrong place to air my views, and I realize such views are in danger of being deleted or dismissed for being closed-minded and not as advanced and forward-thinking as individuals of this time. But I believe you're rapidly dating because you, like most humans, don't want to be alone. You're fresh out of a relationship with someone you loved, but did not love you as much as you might even, did not love you as much, and you might even be feeling terribly insecure because the ex is with a real woman, sorry, cis woman. So I have not really told you guys too much about the intricacies of my last relationship, because to be honest with you guys, I don't want to really talk about it. There's a lot of shit that I did that was fucked up. I would say that he did significantly less fucked up things. He didn't really do anything fucked up, to be completely honest with you. A lot of just what he quote unquote did in quotations was just not live up to, I guess, my expectations of what I wanted out of a relationship. And that's because what I wanted changed. I mean, I still love him and I know he still loves me, but I could tell at the end of our relationship that he loved me a lot more than I guess I loved him. And I guess when you think of love, you got to quantify what that is. You know, my romantic feelings towards him dwindled a lot towards the end of our relationship. And I'm not going to go into the whys and the hows. You know, I'm just going to put it out there. I really hurt my ex. I really did. So much of my relationship was me not being able to voice how I felt about literally anything, and then also not being able to say things kink wise and stuff, because a lot of my kink stuff was related directly to trauma. And that was something I didn't like. I looked at my ex and I realized this recently. My ex was like supposed to be like, when I met him, I was in my most like, I'm just out of school. I'm going through a lot of things with my family. I just want normalcy. I just want some degree of normalcy, right? And so with my ex, he made me feel very normal. He made me feel incredibly normal. And so there were things that I didn't tell him, because I didn't want, I guess, for him to not be that normal guy anymore, I guess. And so I understand that you guys don't know everything, and I probably will never tell you absolutely everything because it's none of your business, first of all. But it was not a situation where I loved him more than he loved me. That was not the case. It was really a situation of me growing in one direction, him sort of staying in the same place as he was, me sort of resenting him for that, him still loving me and wanting to hold on to me regardless of all the fucked up things I did to him. And our relationship dwindling because of that, I was going on one trajectory and he was going on a different one. And at a certain point, I just had to say to him, like, look, I love you and I think you're great, but I can't do this anymore, And if you follow me for a while, you know that there's a lot more to it than that. But it was not a situation where I loved him more than he loved me. And that's the thing that kills me. This is the shit about cis people that does annoy me. It's like you have to think that if a relationship failed, it was me being the begging trans person who just, oh my God, I'm just, just struggling to be loved, and him being the gatekeeper who defines this thing. And so if the relationship ended, it was on his account, not mine. I dumped him. He did not dump me. And I'm not really bothered by him being in a relationship with a cis woman. I'm really not. I am happy for my ex. And I mean that genuinely, because I care about him. I care about him as a person, and I want him to be happy. I know that he's not with a cis woman just because, my ex is not like that. He's not, he loves trans women, and he loves cis women. I love my ex a lot because he looked at cis women and trans women as largely the same, and some men feel that way. And I think that's really hard for a lot of cis people to wrap their mind around, that there are men who look at trans women and cis women as the same, because a lot of cis women specifically, let me just put it very bluntly, just don't want to believe that the men who sleep with them sleep with me too. Anyway, let me keep reading. The world changed one day and I woke up with a label I never asked for. So yes, I'm a cis woman, or just a woman as I like to think. As trans people, in my opinion, are the ones who were born as they are born. And trans people, in my opinion, are who they were born as, are allowed to dress up to play whatever part they choose. That is as far as my tolerance goes. When I say tolerant, I don't want to imply that what I say, believe, think, or do means fuck all standards, and no one should force others to change their thinking as long as it's not harmful. Convincing a white male that inferior is not the same as convincing a straight male that a trans person who was born a male is a woman, and vice versa. But since I'm speaking from a personal place, I mention tolerance or acceptance levels because trans people get really threatened when women/men step for their sex/gender. So now this is like the little kid talking stuff that I'm talking about, you know, like who the fuck is telling you that you can't be a cis? Like, you know, it's like, it's cis people crack me up. Like, y'all crack me the fuck up. Like, I'm glad that she understands that, like, what you say doesn't matter. I'm glad you know that. But girl, I'm not threatened by you saying, like, this is a thing. Like, even the way that she introduced the topic, it's like, you know, I'm about to say some real radical shit here, but you were born a man and it's cool that you want to play dress up, but you're not really a woman and that's why men don't want you. You don't think that that's something that I've heard ever since I've publicly had a discussion about dating? You don't think that I've heard that over and over and over and over and over and over? I've heard that my entire fucking life. But like I said, because I live this and because you don't, I just know stuff that you don't. And you're going to have your opinion, but your opinion is not really going to be reflective of my reality. You know, like you can sit, cis people can sit there all day long and swear that no man wants me, and swear that no man wants me, and swear that no one is ever interested in me because the truth is I'm just a man playing dress up. And I could leave the fucking house in a man's, you know, suit and people would still be like, oh, that girl looks really cute in a suit. Like, it's not like but you can have your opinion. You can have your thought about this. But at the end of the day, you're just sort of talking to me. You're just saying words and they don't really mean anything. Like, and that's what's killed me about a lot of the conversations online about trans stuff, because cis people can sit around and debate this until they're blue in the fucking face. But bitch, guess what? I'm going to leave my house and live my trans ass life where I'm accepted as a woman without question, without any argument. And that's just how it's going to fucking be, you know? And it is what it is. And the thing is, this would be a very different conversation for me if I were like 2 years into my trans life. Bitch, I've been trans for over a fucking decade. It's kind of a moot point at this point. Like, this stuff, I don't need to be told about, oh, you know, the truth is this and this and that. Bitch, I already know. And the thing is, you know, I will say there is a part of me that when I hear cis people, cis hets, talk about this shit, I do wish that men who dated trans women would just come forward and talk about it. Because for a lot of men, it still is very much a secret thing. I mean, the biggest difference I can tell you about dating men now versus when I started blogging about trans dating is that there's more men out here who are aware of their interest in trans women, right? But there still isn't a path to these men talking to people about it. You know, a lot of these men don't have friends or family members that they can talk to about this stuff without feeling judged, because while sure, there's more of an awareness that trans people exist, there's still not a, you know, a community or an organization around men who like trans women. And you know why that is for the most part? Do you know why? And this is going to blow some of your guys' minds. There's a reason for why that is for the most part. And that's because regardless of how you personally feel about this. The vast majority of men who like transgender women are straight. And so they're not going to want to even organize around that, because it's like, why do we need to organize around dating women? It's silly, you know? It's silly. And so they're not going to. And it's just so annoying to listen to people be like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Because I know part of it's because you don't know that your best friends, you know, are out here chasing after trans girls. You don't know that. They are, but you don't know that. So how, well, you know, so what is your path to understanding that trans people are even viable dating mates? Because you don't know anyone that, to your knowledge, that's dating a trans person, you know? And so you have no perception of it. Anyway, let's keep going. Kat, you're in for the struggle of your life. Kat, you are in for the struggle of your life. You're not likely to find a man, black or white. The white males are sexually uninhibited and weird, so you might land one in that pool who can see past and accept you as a woman. And I nor you should blame them for that. Just because a straight man sees you and is attracted to you doesn't mean they want to be with someone born a man. They see a woman and you are and are attracted to you because you've done the makeup, you've taken hormones, changed the body, and it's in their nature to be drawn to womanhood. But at the end of the day, it is only your own fantasy at work. It's not a reality, and they feel betrayed by that. It is a betrayal. Men and women need each other to procreate and pass their genetics on. It's very natural for us to be drawn to one another. Now you have men who believe they are women hoping to dive into the pool and date straight males who desire actual women, and in some cases, childbearing women. So here's another thing. So the thing that kind of kills me about when cis women say this shit. So I'm just going to say this. Some of the issues that cis women have with trans women are really based on the same issues they have with other cis women. There is this idea of a lack of resources, and so we have to compete. She specifically talked about, you know, these trans women jumping into her pool of dating, you know, partners and trying to take, you know, the straight men away from them, you know. I've never had to try to take a straight man from anyone. They've always offered willingly. So, you know, I don't know where you're coming from. And as I've said before, dating straight guys is exhausting. It is exhausting to date straight guys. Most of the men, you know, like again, and I say this because I'm someone who, you know, for example, I'm dating a guy right now who is pansexual. That's like one of the most healthy relationships I've been in. We communicate a lot. Our sex is great. There's no problems. There's no issues. It is what it is. He doesn't want kids. It's great. Ooh, that rhymed. I'm also dating another guy, and he's straight, but he likes trans women and sees trans women just as cis women. You know, you're not going to always, I understand that for a lot of cis women, the ability to procreate is like this important, ever-changing thing. And because of that, they feel, and that's a very biological thing, so I'm not coming at them for that at all. But not all men want kids. Not all men want kids. Okay? Not all men want kids. And so if you're, and I'm just saying this because it's a little low-key misogynistic. Like if you're sitting there as a cis woman saying, well, you know, maybe he doesn't want you because he wants to have kids, you know, you're setting yourself up for failure if that's what you see as the most important and pressing thing for you. Like, because at the end of the day, not all men want children, you know? And so you can't really, you're doing yourself a disservice if you sit there and say, well, that's why they want me and not you, because, it's like, girl, you're more than that, first of all. And not every man is out here. Like, for some men, because listen, I used to really talk to guys a lot about like why they like trans women. Some men, there's a lot of reasons why men like trans women, and maybe one day I'll do a whole fucking broadcast about it, but a lot of men like trans women exclusively for the reason that they cannot have kids. And they don't want to even be in a situation with someone where they could have kids, but they're attracted to women. So, and here's another thing about that comment. She talked about my makeup, my hormones, did she say surgery? Let me see if she said surgery. Oh no, she just said you've done all this to change your body. So I've talked about this before, but when I was a teenager, I started developing breasts. These are all me. And hormones changed the shape of my boobs, but did not change like the volume of my breasts, like at all. So I don't really have this experience of like, my body is so vastly different from what it used to be. Don't tell young trans, kids this, but hormones don't change that much. Hormones don't change that much. They change a lot, but they don't change that much. Like, for where you're at, well, I guess put it this way. I've never had a very masculine body. My body is what it is, and it's always been what it is, And so I don't have that experience of like, my body used to be, this big, manly, buff body, and now I'm just this small, tiny, feminine thing. It's not really been my experience. And I have been on hormones for almost 4 years now. So what are you talking about? But cis people, they've got all the answers. They know how this whole situation is supposed to work. So, they're going to always have, regardless of how ill-informed, they're going to always have their opinion. And they're going to always feel like that opinion is the right one. Anyway, let's move forward. I find your videos interesting, and I'm trying to learn all I can, because I know a trans woman that is a close friend with another friend of mine, and I don't want to offend her with my harsh criticisms and defensive nature. I say that I am defensive because when you consider all the shit I have dealt with simply because I'm a woman at the hands of men, who, with all their power and privilege, have been used against me, it's hard to accept trans women in my midst who wish to claim the essence, beauty, and power of womanhood with the same passion as I. It's too difficult to believe. Have you ever been part of a real sisterhood? Probably not. When I'm around these women, my menstrual cycle literally rotates in sync with theirs. Our energies combine, our tension is palpable, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. When we want to scratch each other's eyes out, mostly for good though. Anyways, I'm starting to meander. Take care. Hope you find what you're looking for. I'm actually not going to reject or deny a lot of what she said about being a cis woman, because that's all true. There are a lot of women who do sync up. There's a lot of, there's a lot to be said about sisterhood. There's a lot to be said about that stuff. For me, you guys have to remember, I transitioned very young. And so for me, a lot of my experiences, I don't have a menstrual cycle. I don't have a lot of those, the yoni. I don't have the yoni, and that's real and that's true. But am I wishing to claim an essence? Not really. I mean, I think the thing for me is, and look, y'all just watch me do my fucking makeup. What did I do? I put two eyeshadows on and some eyeliner, and I'm about to line these lips so I can go out and. Ooh, I should be checking my phone. I'm dragging this woman, and I really should be checking my phone. One sec. Yes, bitch, about to go on this little like impromptu date with this tall man. Where was I? I mean, a lot of that shit's true. A lot of me not having a lot of female friends, honestly, is like internalized misogyny. So so intense. I mean, I'm working on it still because I've been meeting a lot of women. So I went to so for me right now, one of my big goals is meeting more women in the poly community and in the BDSM community, and like forming relationships with them and like actually having sisterhood with them. Because for me, it was, I've just always had a really hard time, with female friends. But again, so much of that was like internalized misogyny and really enjoying being the only girl in the group and, that sort of thing. So, drag me for that, But I mean, because here's the thing with me, I think when cis people leave comments like this, and hopefully I'm going to end here. Here's what's funny to me. I don't know where they think I'm going to go with that information. First of all, I've heard it all before. But what do you think the conclusion is? You guys see me do my makeup on a live almost every other day. But do I feel like my makeup or makeuplessness or whatever validates or invalidates my gender? No, absolutely not. I literally leave the house, bitch. Look. So okay, I'll tell this story real quick. So I ordered McDonald's on Postmates because my diet has just like not been going well. And I was like, bitch, I need some fucking junk. I need junk, okay? And so I ordered McDonald's on Postmates, and the McDonald's is literally walking distance from my house. Like it's literally around the corner, and I could go to McDonald's. I was like, let me get not Postmates, Uber Eats actually. And Uber Eats was taking so fucking long. Uber Eats was literally like, it was like 30 minutes late. I was like, bitch, it's right around the corner. And so I called them and they're like, your order's been ready for 15 minutes. And this was like right when I had taken out my braids. I didn't really want to go out. I wanted to be in the house. That's why I was ordering food to be delivered. But I was so aggravated. I was like, bitch, let me get up and walk to this McDonald's to get my food. And so, girl, I walked out there with a satin bonnet on, no bra, no makeup, like, and I was just like, bitch, I'm about to go get me some fucking McDonald's. Like, fuck out of here. And I'm often like going somewhere with a bonnet on or like no makeup, just like a mess, just like a true, real mess. You know, so like I get that you guys always see me on here doing my makeup and shit, but like please don't think that like this is me every day. You know, we've been here for an hour. Um, I mean, I've been going out a lot. So because I've been trying to be social and stuff, maybe I've been doing it more. But girl, like, don't think that I'm someone who feels that my gender is dictated by makeup, you know? Because y'all have to understand for me specifically, most of like I have like a lot of my memories when I was young were me fighting with people because they assumed that I was a cis woman. You know, when I was younger, I absolutely hated when people thought that I was a cis girl. I thought I was, that used to piss me off so much. It used to really make me mad, you know? I mean, I was in denial, you know, but that's where I was. I absolutely hated. So I have a lot of things where like before I even made the, you know, the decision to physically transition or to openly transition, where people were already reading me as a woman. And so that is my life. It's my life is not one where people overwhelmingly saw me as a man, and I positioned myself in a way where that was an identity or a vision of me that was accepted. And I lived that. Was I socialized as a young girl? No. But was I ever able to reach any sort of life where I was seen as a man? No. That's not real. That's just not, I've never experienced that, you know? So it's a little annoying to have people be like, yeah, you know, men have abused me in this way or that way. And so it's really uncomfortable for me to see you putting things on like it's a cop. And girl, bitch, I could be naked and I'm still, bitch, I have shaved my head, you know, like I've been through various phases of life and gender presentation, and people have often just read me as a girl. I'll never forget when I went to apply for a job. I was so tired of being people laughing me out of the room when I go put an application. So I went and I put on, you know, some jeans and like a nice like button-up shirt. And I had a mohawk at the time. And I was like, let me go and, you know, apply for this job, right? I thought I was really giving you Butchie McButcherson on Butcherson Lane. But when I went and applied for this job, the woman only referred to me in female pronouns, you know? And so it was one of those aggravating things of like, I tried to pass as a man and it just didn't work. It just didn't work, you know? And so that's not my life, you know? Am I saying that I've had the socialization of a cis woman? Absolutely fucking not. But do I know what it feels like to be seen as a man? No. I just don't. And that's not something I'm saying to make myself feel better or even to make you feel better. It's something I'm saying because it's a true reflection of what have experienced. So you can take that or you can leave it. Either way, my experiences are not going to change because you don't like it, you know? Anyway, let me, you know, I'm breaking lesbian hearts like every other day. I'm always having to say that I'm tragically straight. Like I'm just always having to say that to women. Did I tell y'all about how when I was in a relationship, I used to always sort of like low make the joke that like being a lesbian would be so much easier because all my lesbian friends, like from my perspective, like I thought they all like loved each other and like it was really cool that like, you know, lesbians could like hang out with their they could hang out with their exes and stuff and there's not a lot of problems because that was my perception when I was in a relationship, right? Then I got out of my relationship and I realized like all these lesbians in LA hate each other. They all hate each other. Like bitch, last time I was in a lesbian club, I was there with a bunch of lesbian YouTubers who all hate each other. And there was a fucking fight that almost broke out. And I was like, bitch. I really thought there was no problems. I really thought there was no drama, but there is, and it's, oh my god. Lesbian drama is really entertaining, though. I will say. I will say. Because I guess it's so funny because it's just like, do you really think that these people like each other? I really thought that, like, yeah, you guys all get along. You guys, like, it's all great. Like, because they're always, because like the LA like lesbian community is so small, so it's like they're always around each other constantly. So I thought, I thought that there would be more sisterhood and all that, menstrual cycles syncing and all that, but anyway, it's like, so in closing, I feel like people are going to feel how they feel, and I can't really be bothered that much. I really can't be bothered like that much. Once this cis woman stops watching my videos, there's going to be another one that leaves the same comment. I absolutely, what? I like my hair, but I'm not. I'm so used to having red hair. I'm so used to having like not black hair that like I've had red hair since like last November, I think. Yeah. It's been a while actually, because I've had that color of hair. Like when I did my Anarchy video, that was like when I first installed that hair, and I've done it twice since then. Does my hair change? We will see. We'll see how my hair fares, you know. We will see. Let me see if this Sleek and Shine on it, which is, I'm like, girl, my hair hates me so much right now. I did. I blowed it and I flat ironed it. I was gonna do a curling rod type situation, a curling wand rather type situation. But I realized as I was trying to curl my hair that I have like no experience curling hair. And I was like, girl, I don't even want to risk it. So let's just straighten it. So It's growing on me more and more every moment. All right. I do love my hair is thick and healthy, though. I mean, that is the best. All right, guys. I'm going to get changed and go. And I will talk to you guys later. This has been a really good conversation. We should do this again sometime. Yeah, you guys got that. Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.